Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Shared Reading, Unit 9, Day 14. Today, we're going to reread the poem Tested by Dust. Remember, free verse poetry allows the author freedom to use the structural elements of poetry, like rhythm, meter, and rhyme, in a variety of ways rather than always having regular patterns. Today, we're going to analyze the free verse structure of Tested by Dust. We'll reread the poem, and then we'll answer the question, where does it contain examples of free verse structural elements, such as lack of rhythm, rhyme, and stanza structure, or specific line length?
Tested by dust. While we sat, taking our 6 weeks test, the wind rose and the sand blew, right through the cracks in the schoolhouse wall, right through the gaps around the window glass. And by the time the tests were done, each and every one of us was coughing pretty good, and we all needed a bath. I hope we get bonus points for testing in a dust storm. April 1934.
All right. So if we look back to lines 1 and 2, we can see that it says, while we sat taking our 6 weeks test, I can tell there that there's no set form to the stanzas. So that's what I'm going to write down for number 1. No set form to stanzas. The second thing that I want to look at is lines 1 through 3. It says, while we sat taking our 6 weeks test, the wind rose. There, I can tell that there is no specific line length. I can tell that the lines are all different sizes. There's no set specific length to them. Now let's look at lines 5 and 6. It says, right through the cracks in the schoolhouse wall, right through the gaps around the window glass. I can see in these two lines, there is no regular rhythmic pattern. There's no rhythm to this poem. And finally, I want to look at lines 11 and 12. Let's change the color. It says, I hope we get bonus points for testing in a dust storm. I can see here that there is no rhyme scheme. There's no rhyming in here. So when you get to your Google Slides presentation, one of the slides asks you to find examples of the different structural elements, and your examples are right here. All right, what we're going to do next is we are going to be reading Dust and Rain. Remember last week we looked at the author's use of figurative language such as similes and personification. So today we're going to reread the poem Dust and Rain to analyze how the poet uses similes. Remember, similes use the word like or as to make a comparison between two things. As we read, we're going to think about how the use of figurative language strengthens the poem's description of the dust storm.
Dust and rain. On Sunday, winds came, bringing a red dust like a prairie fire, hot and peppery, searing the inside of my nose, the whites of my eyes. roaring dust, turning the day from sunlight to midnight. And as the dust left, rain came, rain that was no blessing. It came too hard, too fast, and washed the soil away, washed the wheat away with it. Now, little remains of Daddy's hard work, and the only choice he has is to give up or start all over again. At the Strong Ranch, they didn't get a single drop. So who fared better? Ma looks out the window at her apple trees. Hard green balls have dropped to the ground, but there are enough left. Enough for a small harvest if we lose no more. June 1934.
All right. So if I remember correctly, the simile that we found last week was right here. And what this says is, on Sunday, winds came, bringing a red dust like a prairie fire, hot and peppery, searing the inside of my nose. So I know that because of this word like, that this is comparing the red dust to a prairie fire. Or I'm sorry, this is, yes, red dust to a prairie fire. And so what you need to do right now is go and think about how figurative language helps us understand poems better.